You're good now. No. Like I started it. You're good now.
All right. Big shout out to today's show sponsor, Squad QL. Thank you for jumping on and sponsoring another episode of the Beer Fueled Fantasy Football Podcast. It is the Squad QL is the roster management assistant to help you win your league this fantasy football season. If you're on Yahoo, ESPN, or CBS, Squad QL will pull in your roster, league settings, and scoring system, provide you recommendations on waiver wire moves, which are always helpful. Go ahead and make some starting lineup decisions for you and even make trade recommendations so you can win your league here in 2018. Head over to squadql.com to download the all-in-one fantasy football manager app.
I heard it's so good you could even go back and win your league in 2017 with it.
That would be amazing if you could do that.
I've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
It works. It totally works.
Yep.
Don't fact check me. Just like, with Antonio Brown being out week 3, right?
This is on the internet. You have to believe it.
Yes.
All right. Squad QL is brought to you by the creators of RotoQL. If you are looking for some help from DFS, possibly back in 2016 even, it's the leading daily fantasy lineup optimizer trusted by 100,000 DFS players worldwide, available at rotoql.com. Let's start the show.
Squad!
Hey guys, welcome back to Beer Fuel Fantasy Football. It's Wednesday, which means we're going to jump into the lounge. And today we're going to talk about some things we got wrong coming into the season. Either situations we didn't predict how they're going to pan out correctly, or there's something we felt like we missed, where guys are either over or underperforming what our expectations were coming into the season. Also going to recap what happened in the Monday night game where the Steelers won 30-27 over the Buccaneers, preview what's going to happen in the Thursday night tilt, and then go ahead and let you know what's going to happen for the rest of the week here when we preview Friday and, of course, live on Sunday. But before we get into all that, I'm Nick Sparts, joined by Christopher Hopper.
Hot BFF, 2 Ps. What's up?
You know the drill.
With 2 Ps.
Dan Thury.
At 30 BFF, what's up? 2 Fs.
There's not Fs in what's up.
Not saying it's in order.
No, it was up with 2 Ps
Yeah,
for me.
up with 2 Ps.
Like, what's up, Papa?
What's up, Papa?
If you want to find the entire show, you can find us Beer Fueled FF with 2 Fs as well. Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped at that location. Beer Fueled Fantasy Football for YouTube and Facebook. Keep following, giving us subscribers up on the YouTube channel. Reminder, you can find us there live Sunday mornings, 10:30 in the morning Central Time. We'll go ahead and go over an inactives news, answer all your questions. If you can drop likes and comments on any of the videos, I appreciate that. I'm a little behind in answering some of your questions. I will get to those by the time this episode airs, hopefully. And then if you can drop us reviews on iTunes, also helps boost the visibility of the show. We appreciate all that. If you want to give us a little extra helping hand, reach out to BeerFueledFF on Twitter or beerfieldfantasy@gmail.com. We can hit you up with merchandise. I believe Dan's modeling the hat right now as usual. Boop. Or you can get a link to our Patreon if you want to support us that way.
Hey, you're modeling the shirt, too.
Oh, I am modeling the shirt, too. I forgot I changed.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we got for the intro. Let's hit a beer preview before we get into this full episode.
Beer Fuel.
And today we've got Oktillion by Ale Asylum
With 2 Ls.
with 2 Ls.
Ooh, like it.
Ale Asylum is from Madison, Wisconsin. First time we've had them on the show. Somehow. I've seen them around enough that I figured we would have grabbed them before now, but 175 episodes later, we finally got you.
174.
And 2 A's.
I was going to say,
What?
I like to be late on things.
I'm so lost.
What has 2 A's in it?
Ale Asylum.
If you go by the abbreviations, maybe.
Yeah. Is it ironic that the abbreviation for this is also the abbreviation for Alcoholics Anonymous? There's only one. There's only one A in Asylum.
I know.
I'm just going to roll with it at this point. Oktillion is an Oktoberfest, clocks in at 6% ABV, and we'll go ahead and give you the entire review of that once we're through the lounge.
News.
All right, this one is not a giant shocker because it is a short week for the Buccaneers, but NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports all signs point to Ryan Fitzpatrick starting week 4 against Chicago.
Yep, and as I predicted on Twitter, the downfall started the first half of that game. He's going to throw 2 more picks to Eddie Jackson next week. or this week against the Bears. They'll go into the bye week. Jameis will be starting coming out of it.
And I'm excited to see him with those weapons.
Me too.
All right, Titans coach Mike Vrabel confirmed Marcus Mariota with his elbow injury will start week 4 against the Eagles. I don't know if Blaine Gabbert's even available to start with his concussion protocol, so they're probably down to no other options.
They were working out Austin Davis.
Always a great sign.
So no other options.
Always a great sign.
Yeah, Mariota is apparently doing better now.
Yeah, I said it was a 1 to 4 week injury. We're in week 3, so we're about the back end of what that prognosis should be.
There you go.
Patriots placed running back Rex Burkhead with his neck injury on injured reserve. Do you have the volume on?
Nope. It's also a touchscreen. I don't know why I try to screw with the mouse. Sony Michel, I get no James White. Sorry, everybody else is gonna run and be like, "Oh my God, Sony Michel, James White."
Both?
Yeah.
Definitely both.
They can support 2. It's when it's 3+ that it's too messy.
They can. I'm just not sure Sony Michel can support himself.
That is a good question. I would like to believe it before I see it.
Jury's still out on that one, but you're at 3.5 yards a carry first couple games and not really doing a whole lot.
I mean, the whole offense isn't doing a whole hell of a lot.
I know.
Outside of James White.
Look, I think Sony Michel will get better as the year progresses, but it may take some time.
Yep.
So some people are saying you should run out and buy him now. Dolphins have actually had a pretty good run defense so far this year. Mm-hmm. Possibly let him see if he duds this week and then go try to trade him because the person may lose hope.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd probably try to buy him after this weekend. Because his hype is still pretty high right now.
Yep. Try to see if that can take the edge off a little bit this week.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree.
In a corresponding move, the Patriots re-signed Kenjon Barner. They did this before they put Burkhead on IR, but it was kind of the sneak preview that something was going to happen.
Foreshadow.
It's Barner, so he'll not it's Barner, but it's Barner on the Patriots, so he'll probably find a way to get used at least sparingly.
He'll have one game this year where he finishes a top 12 running back for no reason.
He'll score 3 touchdowns. Maybe like, oh my God, it's like Mike Gillislee.
But watch
Kenny
out
Barner.
because if Sonny Michel
Or Jonas Gray.
or if Sony Michel puts the ball on the ground.
Yeah. Then all the James White.
All right. Alshon Jeffrey with his shoulder injury has been cleared for contact.
I've ranked him as of 2 hours ago as if he's playing.
I'll
make
wait.
changes.
I will plug him in if needed. I'm really hoping he's back though because the Eagles seem to really, really need him.
I think he's playing. I think that's good for everybody involved, including Nelson Aguilar, that he does play too.
And NFL Network's I'm so used to that being NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports that it's just NFL Network's reports. Evan Ingram MCL sprain is expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks.
Yep, and the attrition happens more at tight end. I don't know that Red Ellison's viable. I think that this actually helps Sterling Shepard the most.
I will get to that later.
Should we make a note about Aqib Talib being... He got placed on IR today.
Aqib Talib did get placed on IR, so he will
I know
be out
it's
at least
defense, but-
He'll be out at least 8 weeks. So the Rams are slightly less scary.
Well, they don't have Peters either, so their secondary is really less scary.
Peters is a game time decision. Apparently,
it was a 2 to 4 week prognosis originally. Now they're saying he is a game time decision. I don't buy it, especially on a short week.
I don't think
there's no way he
week.
plays Thursday.
No,
none.
Well, Dan can get to that in his Thursday preview,
and then I will.
All right. People who did not practice Wednesday, so you should keep an eye on these players. There's a massive list that was just limited, but we'll read into that if they're still not practicing in full on Friday. But for did not practice Wednesday, Rodgers is still not practicing on Wednesday.
Not surprised.
And they're just going to run him out for walkthroughs and go until he's better.
J.J. did not practice Wednesday. He's been out for almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah, that's more of a thing to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Sproles should be back, though. So.
Sproles also didn't practice today.
Well, he was supposed to be back. Maybe they're being precautious. We'll see Friday.
We'll see what Thursday, Friday brings us.
Another Corey Clement cock tease.
I guess it.
No, it's all Wendell Smallwood. And then, fucking Christ.
Wendell Smallwood.
Matt Breida with his hyperextended knee did not practice Wednesday.
Yeah, that could be precautionary also. He came back into the game, so I don't know how much his status is in jeopardy, but could be a lot of Alfred Morris this week, and very ugly Alfred Morris.
Yes.
Yeah, but they don't really have anyone else. So
Nope.
Mozart.
TJ Yeldon.
Mozart.
Mozart. I don't know.
Mozart.
They're going to bring him from the grave.
God.
Are you confident he's dead, Dan?
Yeah, maybe.
Testing Dan's knowledge on common facts.
I know.
TJ Yeldon didn't practice Wednesday.
Corey Grant is viable if Yeldon doesn't play.
He is, though. I think Fournette finally should be back.
Fournette should be back, though, yes.
About time. Juju Smith-Schuster with an abdomen issue did not practice on Wednesday.
Oh, well, if he can't go for some weird reason, that's really good news for Antonio Brown. Because Juju, I made a tweet during the Monday night game that Antonio Brown was a really good wide receiver too because Juju's out targeting him and out producing him.
Yep, back-to-back games. John Brown didn't practice Wednesday.
Oof.
Everyone finally put him in their lineups, and now he's not practicing.
What is he hurt with?
Yeah,
I believe it's an ankle.
Oh, well, it's not the hamstring this time, so that's good.
Monitor.
Anthony Miller, separated shoulder, didn't practice on Wednesday.
Yep, didn't expect him to. I don't even know how he came back into the game with a shoulder dislocation.
Well, he came back in, was in for like a series, and then left again, didn't he?
Yep.
Jimmy Graham didn't practice on Wednesday with a knee.
It's normal for Jimmy Graham.
Jack Doyle remained sidelines at Wednesday's practice with his hip issue.
Eric Ebron could be another viable starter because who the hell else are you going to start?
And I can tell you don't read the notes because Eric Ebron with knee and shoulder didn't practice on Wednesday.
I really did not need the notes. Eric Swope!
Swoop! And then what could possibly open up somebody for some potential targets. Dolphins tight end A.J. Derby with a foot injury is not practicing
Mike
Wednesday.
Gesicki.
And there's also Keenan
Season.
Allen.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to add Allen. Keenan Allen is not practicing with a knee as well.
Yep.
It's
on there. I
Normal
think you
for
just
him
skipped
also.
over it.
I jumped over it. I jumped from Schuster to Brown.
Oh, well, we'll see. Yeah, Friday's practices are usually more crucial than Wednesday practices
Yes.
are, especially for veteran guys.
Yeah, I just like to do these so it's like, hey, here's a list of people to keep an eye on for the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all I've got for injuries. Let's go ahead and hit a Monday night recap.
Hey, he's touching
What
that.
the hell happened?
Look at you go. I'm so proud of you.
All right, as I mentioned in the intro, Steelers won this one 30-27. It was kind of a split night for the Buccaneers. It started off with Fitztragic and then switched over to Fitzmagic, but I am going to start on the Steelers side where they went up early. But we may have gotten the best big game road game we've had in years.
Tongue twister.
30 of 38, 358 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. He was just smoking the Buccaneers beat-up secondary. And Vance McDonald was helping.
I mean, it didn't matter that the secondary was beat up. Chris Conti would have made that worse.
Apparently he's playing
Someone got improved.
Apparently he's playing with a PCL injury before he got sent to the Shadow Realm.
Anyway.
James Conner had a real slow start in this one. If it hadn't been a couple nice runs in the fourth quarter to get him to 61 yards, he would have given you a dud. The only real plus in this one, though, is his passing game usage is still pretty nice. He got 6 targets, 5 catches, 34 yards, so that insulates his floor a little bit. But I'm hoping for better games than this one. It's been kind of 2 that have been a bit uglier in a row now.
The Bucs have been pretty good against running backs. They held Kamara to under 4 yards per carry. I think they held most of the running backs against Philadelphia last week.
Have they faced Mozart yet?
They have not faced Mozart.
Oh, well. Maybe he'll rise.
He might be Bach.
Yes.
God. Juju is now one of 2 receivers with at least 100 receiving yards in his first 3 games. The other one is Adam Thielen. He's also out-snapped and out-targeted Brown in back-to-back games with over 30 targets in his last 2 games.
That Mozart Bach joke was classical.
We're going to just keep
We're
this
just
going.
going to keep this going.
Brown gave you a solid floor game, 6 for 50 on 9 targets with a touchdown, but at this point, it's turning into a 1A, 1B situation for Antonio
I
Brown.
love it so much.
So, yeah,
Things that we guessed.
a month ago, that would have sounded insane, but yeah, this is a 1A, 1B situation.
I mean, we knew Juju was a solid, mid to higher end wide receiver too, so.
Yeah, but we weren't expecting it to be like, hey, we did not expect this to be a upgrade over Diggs Thielen type situation.
Nope, but it is. So.
And then for tight ends, this was a Vance McDonald game. He got 5 targets to Jesse James's 1. He banished Chris Conte to the Shadow Realm on a 75-yard catch and run. If McDonald was healthy at this point, I'd prefer him as the stash because it looks like he is more used in the receiving game when healthy.
Yeah, just like we all predicted after the first 3 weeks.
Yep, tight ends is
I
such a
don't
mess.
like this entire situation is always fucked up because McDonald's never healthy and Jesse
don't know
James
what day it
has
is.
performed when McDonald's been healthy. So
Yeah.
who the fuck knows?
Yep. Onto the Buccaneers side, Fitzpatrick gave us Fitztragic first half, Fitzmagic the second half. He finished 30 of 50 for 411 with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Yes.
Second half may have held off Winston for at least another week, but he's the first ever player to throw for 400 plus in their first 3 games. He is the list.
That's.
I don't have anything to say about Ryan Fitzpatrick.
The hype's gotten too much on him.
It'll be shut up this week.
So confident in your Bears, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, every time It made me so happy when he was so bad in the first half that ESPN stopped referring to him as Fitzmagic and started using his actual name. Because all it was Fitzmagic. I'm Booger McFarland down on the sideline of my little Zoom pod. Fitzmagic.
Okay, that little like sliding thing on the sidelines is so stupid. Why is he not in the booth with them?
Why is Booger McFarland talking in front of a microphone?
Okay, that may be a completely separate conversation, but it's like, why do you have just a random dude who's chiming in from the sidelines and just like on a little slidey pod?
I hate everything about Monday Night Football's broadcast.
Thank God for mute buttons.
Yeah, it helps. Run your own soundtrack.
I would rather Joe Buck come in there and call it.
Oh, at this point, yes.
Yeah.
100%. All right, on to the Buccaneers running games, which is also a joke. Barber led the way with 8 touches, 33 total yards. At this point, in any sort of stand-outside league, you do not have to own a Bucs running back.
Yeah.
Drop them.
It's like last year.
This might be worse than last year.
This is worse. At least Peyton Barber gave you some weeks last year.
I mean,
He is giving you shit
he
this
might
year.
give you some weeks this year. We don't know yet. It's week 4.
The team seems perfectly happy to just always throw.
With Fitz tragic, yeah.
So Evans continues to be amazing through 3 weeks. He was 6, 137, and 1 in this one on 11 targets. He has a touchdown in all 3 games. Godwin came in second for targets with the worst game I've ever seen. He had multiple drops in the end zone. He had a touchdown called back where he was kicked in the shoulder as he was kind of stumbling to the ground, and they called him down by contact. But he did get a touchdown late. He saw 10 targets, 74 yards with that touchdown. So overall, he's been produced in all 3 games now as well.
Godwin's in the Tyler Boyd, Mike Williams level of conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just
The young ascending guys.
Yeah, just the way he's getting targeted, and he got some red zone targets too. So there's some little nuances he's still got to work out.
I think he had a target in the end zone every single red zone trip.
He did.
He did.
You got at least one. Dropped too many of them, but had them.
Yeah, he dropped it 2 more. So
Jackson fell back down to earth. 5 targets in this one. Pecking order appears to be Godwin passing Jackson for most game scripts, though Jackson's still going to get his deep shot, so he may still be startable in plus matchups.
he had a couple of them.
Yep.
And then Howard has won the tight end starting job at this point. Brate did produce, though. Howard saw 8 targets. He caught 6 for 72 yards. Brate saw 4, caught 3 for 34 and a touchdown. The snap percentage is something like 75% average for Howard and 40% for Brate.
Yeah, Brate was used, but it was very clearly O.J. Howard.
Yep, so that one's over. Howard at this point, with how much the attrition is, he's basically just an every week starter now.
He's a top 12 tight end for me this week.
All right.
And I don't love it.
That's where
Does
we're at
it hurt
tight
your
ends.
soul? Hurts his soul.
Well, speaking of what we've gotten wrong, let's go ahead and jump into the lounge. All right. In today's episode, it's going to be Beer Fueled Confessions.
These are my confessions.
That would have been such a good drop.
Just when I thought I said all I could say.
All my side chick on the side says she's got one on the way. These are my confessions.
Nick Vanette screwed me over. Pierre Garcon, man.
Are you just going to go through the whole list in the song here?
No.
Me
All right. Well, Hopper, you can kick us off for our Beer Fueled Confessions. These are players that we were either too high or too low on, and what we got wrong and why.
Pierre Garcon. In our Call Your Shot episode, I said that I thought he was going to catch 80-plus balls for 1,000 yards and finish as a wide receiver 2 or better. Well, Jimmy G tore an ACL. Goodwin's kind of been the real deal, and George Kittle's emerged, so he's about 3rd in the pecking order. And he's on pace to catch a whole 37 balls, which is not quite the 80 that I had predicted for him. So I thought it was going to be a bounce back for him. It's not. He's just old and on the tail end of his career and running it out. And
the whole offense itself was not even clicking that great with Garoppolo.
No, it was not. So just really that fell flat on its face.
All right. Dan, just Dallas wide receivers, basically.
Yeah. So for most of this offseason, there was talks of it's going to be Hearns, a little bit of David Austin, Cole Beasley. Then Michael Gallup finally got there. I think we all kind of bought into that. Maybe it's going to be a low passing offense. It's going to go through Zeke, but maybe someone will finally, stand out and show us something. And we were wrong. Because, like Deontay Thompson trying to do things, Terrence Williams when he plays, annoys. And this entire passing offense has been a massive clusterfuck of shit, and it doesn't look to get any much better. So
yeah, I think Dak has about 400-ish passing yards through 3 games.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Dak, but I even thought that he can at least support a wide receiver 3 in this offense, and you can't.
Nope.
Nope.
There is no supported pass catcher here.
Nope.
All right, kind of on a similar vein here, Andrew Luck. I'm saying I was a little too high on, and what we're finding out is a few things. One, the shoulder isn't quite there like we were hoping it was. He's really not able to just dump deep balls like he was before. Part of that's offense design. This is definitely more of a West Coast short style passing offense than it was before, but it's also just they don't seem to have the faith and luck to just launch bombs to
Or-
T.Y. Hilton.
or an offensive line to block
or a
'em.
line, or really weapons either.
And that was going to be my next point on the weapons. He's basically got Hilton and then a kind of mismatch between Doyle and Ebron, but he's got Ryan Grant is not a NFL wide receiver 2. He
No.
should be a wide receiver 3-4 at best.
They should really go out and try to get Dez.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to see Des here. That would be amazing. And then the last piece and the biggest surprise for me, the Colts defense is competent. I was expecting these to be Andrew Luck to be in constant shootout games where he's going to have to put up 3 touchdowns a game just to try to keep up, and that has not happened at all. They've been giving up about an average of 20 points a game to their opponents. So the defense has actually shown the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all the game script scenarios I had for why Andrew Luck was going to be good have not come to pass. So he's looking like he's more of a mid quarterback 2 at this point.
Yep.
All right, Hopper, your hype train himself.
Now, keep in mind, this is still early in the season, so this could still unfold, as a lot of these could. But Nick Vannett, I liked him because of the targets that were vacated in that offense. He kind of was a similar profile to Jimmy Graham. Will Disley was not really a pass catcher coming out, so it was kind of a de facto, this guy could emerge into the lower tier of tight end ones. What's actually happened is the passing game has been pretty messy in Seattle, especially without Doug Baldwin being there. So he could get back this week. That may open things up. Disley has been a better than expected pass catcher, and they've been pretty much getting about equal volume. Disley has looked better because of some garbage time stuff and a couple long receptions. But the offensive lines had to keep tight ends to block. Between the two, they were getting about 8 targets a game, and I didn't factor Disley in to get really any target volume.
Yeah, we expect him to be a long-term project and not immediately pop the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, you just put down the whole Tampa Bay offense.
Yeah, because who the fuck? I mean, we were, this was just whether Mike Evans' slow start and then trade for Chris Godwin or just pick him up. That was kind of what we were telling you guys out there to do. And what we got is Mike Evans is a wide receiver 2, Chris Godwin's a wide receiver 26, and Jackson's a wide receiver 5. And Fitztragic is a QB1, is the QB1 right now. So we were completely wrong. And he did this against a Saints, defense that, yes, I expected regression, but not to this extent. And against Philadelphia, who's got a good defense. Now, this may not hold up for the entire season, but this has been a fantasy gold mine these first 3 weeks.
Yeah, if you drafted anyone except for Peyton Barber,
and OJ Howard is the tight end 3. So there's
the tight end 3.
The tight end 3.
Okay, so fantasy gold all around. Yeah, they've massively exceeded expectations. All right, mine is David Johnson. I'm going to start by saying fuck Mike McCoy, the only man who can make Hopper cool down a little bit on Steve Sarkisian. So that's an impressive talent. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when they bring Josh Rosen in. Hopefully they can start scheming more dump passes to David Johnson. They just need to get him going in the passing game because this running game is not going to happen.
Well, they need to get him running outside, too, not between the tackles, which they're not doing.
I would be fine with that, too. But if they want to start giving him McCaffrey-like stat lines where he gets 2 carries and 15 targets, I'm perfectly fine with that at this point.
I just need him to be an RB1 at this point.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be elite. He just needs to be an RB1.
Yeah, because he's flashed it. That 20-yard touchdown was awesome. He had the one carry that he scored for a touchdown the first week against Washington was very nice. The preseason, he looked great. It's the offense itself and the scheme is not producing.
Yep.
It's also, you can insert Larry Fitzgerald into this exact same situation where he is getting dragged down against his will by how inept this offense is.
Yeah.
I was expecting this offense to be probably a little below average, but enough to be fantasy relevant, and it's not even that right now.
Right.
All right. Third guy, Hopper. You went with a quarterback who no longer even starting.
Yep, that was Tyrod Taylor. Nick and I both, after we projected things out, were kind of on this, best case scenario, Tyrod's a mid to back end QB1 if he starts all season. Worst case scenario is consistently in the streaming conversation because of the weapons, because of who he's been as a starter. He came in, he completed less than 48% of his passes. He had a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is something he didn't really ever do. And then they couldn't get any really offensive rhythm established. He gets concussed. Baker Mayfield comes in, leads the Browns to their first win in 600 days. And unless Mayfield gets hurt or falls flat on his face, Tyrod Taylor's going to be relegated to bench duty.
I think it has to be an injury because with how bad Taylor was, they're not going to bench Mayfield for performance at this point.
No.
Like, he'd have to be.
I don't see them Kaisering this at all.
No, I don't either.
He'd also have to be like Nathan Peterman first half against the Chargers bad.
Yeah.
And even then, you just ride that one out.
So, yeah, sorry, Taylor. I really liked him in the projections. His efficiency numbers were fantastic in Buffalo. They did not carry over to the Browns. Dan, show favorite. You're just going to throw him under the bus.
Well, I mean, I'll take the L on Amari Cooper. I've been kind of preaching, hyping him up since the beginning of the offseason. Talent's still there. It's just there's not a lot of talent around him. The coaching staff and how they use it has been completely out of whack. We still don't know who the number one target is. It's been a new guy every week.
You mean to tell me it's once again not Amari Cooper's breakout season?
I mean, it could be. I have no idea what Gruden's
Like you said,
doing
it's
with
still
this
week
offense.
3.
It's week 3.
Yeah,
I know.
he's had somebody heavily focused in all 3 weeks. It was Cook week 1, Cooper 2, and Nelson 3. So it's if you're going to start for fantasy purposes, that makes it awful.
Yeah.
I could see Cooper finishing with a great stat line this year because he gets featured in 6 or 7 games, and he'll look awesome.
So
in those
he's
games.
the new Julio Jones.
But good luck picking which week those start those.
It's consistency, and
Yeah.
it's week
Yeah.
in, week out. And it's the same argument for why I don't like Cam Newton.
Yep.
It's you get the end of season numbers might be good. They might put him someplace, but consistently week in, week out, you can't trust it.
So unless this offense gets a bit more normalized and we start seeing some patterns we can actually pick out and project out from here, he's a very tough.
hopefully
person
we
to
ask
draft.
this question again in like 3 or 4 more
We'll cover
weeks.
it at the end of the season.
I'm sure he will.
But around the halfway point, maybe things will change.
Yeah, based on what we see, Cooper is going to be a big discussion point later in the season. I'm almost certain of it.
Yeah.
Mine's Kenny Galladay, who I was too low on. He's coming into an offense. I knew this was going to be a good passing offense, but it had Golden Tate and Marvin Jones, an already established 1A, 1B situation, and one of the better pairs in the league. I didn't know that they were going to take this duo and turn it into a super team trio, 3 deep style, and add Galladay, and all 3 of them are just going to be equal members of a high-powered passing game. So Galladay is massively overperforming my expectations, and all 3 of them are basically wide receiver 2s at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a surprise. I didn't think there was enough target volume and share for him, and he's proved me wrong in that regard.
All right. This is probably, if something were going to come true, this is the one I trust the most. But that was Royce Freeman taking over as the Broncos RB1 in being kind of the guy there. Never mind the fact that Vance Joseph has just been non-committal throughout the entire preseason process and even to now. But Philip Lindsay came absolutely out of nowhere. From really not on anybody's radar, and he's been incredibly efficient through preseason and even into the regular season. And the peripherals on Freeman aren't bad. It's not like he's not performing, but with Lindsay there, with them splitting target work, and for whatever reason, Devontae Booker is still getting 4 or 5. It's not gonna be there like I thought it was gonna be there. Royce is getting almost no passing volume. And he's been an okay runner, but it's not the RB1 that I thought it was going to be.
No, not at all. It's been,
it's been.
It went from like, hey,
tough.
Freeman's going to win the job to, oh, shit, it's a timeshare, and we did not expect the timeshare
It's
to be
like
this.
Washington. It's like Washington's backfield.
Yeah.
It's like not as bad.
So I mean, it could still iron itself out, and you'll learn what they're going to be and watch that shift. But right now, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, Dan, a guy we all liked for the first 4 weeks who through 3 has not given us what we wanted.
This is Chris Hogan. He's a late preseason breakout candidate. I think we were very tempered on him. I know Hopper especially was, and then it kind of just started to make sense. You deep dive it. You start to see, okay, maybe, just maybe, this is it. Those first 4 weeks last season were not a lie. And from what we've seen here, it's not even really just him. The entire offense has been a massive disappointment outside of James White. But Hogan's got 7 catches on the season, no games over 50 yards, and it wasn't for that 2-touchdown game against Jacksonville in week 2. He'd be wide receiver 5 at this point.
Yeah, That was just a weird fluke game against Jacksonville. He got the 2 touchdowns. Other than that, he's done nothing.
And he's nearly droppable because once Edelman comes back and Gordon comes and, it's ready to play, it's not looking good for Hogan.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust his targets at this point. All right, mine is Marlon Mack, and this is for a couple reasons here. Similar to what I mentioned with Andrew Luck, the offense has just not been as productive as I was hoping. I was thinking Luck was going to open this up more for the running game. Hasn't really shaken out that way. He's dealt with injuries, which has kept him off the field. Wilkins and Hines have both produced enough that they're not going to go away easily. So even if Matt comes back, he's not going to have enough of a timeshare to be as valuable as I was hoping. I thought he might be able to come in and be a flex play running back 3 for you based on how my season projected out at the start. At this point, he's going to be lucky if he's even a bench stash or bye week fill-in.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Hopper looks like overachievement for this player. You're going Drew Brees.
Yeah, Drew Brees is definitely overachievement. So I never thought Drew Brees wasn't going to be a quarterback 1, but I thought that his elite tier days were kind of done. I thought that with the defense and the running game that he wouldn't have to throw nearly as much, and the defense has regressed, as Dan said earlier, more than even he thought, and he was the highest. He was the one pushing for Brees to bounce back. But the defense has regressed. Kamara hasn't been able to get it going in the running game. They're missing Ingram, I think, more than any of us thought that they would.
Yeah.
And Brees has had to throw, and he's had to be elite tier. He's a QB3 right now.
And the only reason he's not QB1 is because 2 other people have just overachieved even more than him.
Right.
Who's overachieved more?
All right. I completely agree with that one. He even overachieved my expectations so far.
Even mine, and I was super high on him.
Well,
It's been remarkable.
Yeah, and the thing with him is that he can keep this up full season. Fitzpatrick, I don't think anybody's assuming that. Patrick Mahomes, you don't know what he is. He's a rookie. Or not, he's not a rookie.
Yep.
He's a second-year player that's looked incredibly good.
Defense are going to adjust to him heavily.
There's going to be adjustments now as you go through that. But Breeze, can keep it up.
Yeah.
Yep. Dan, I have to pour some out for this guy.
Jamison Crowder. I'll take the L. I think the show can take an L.
The show could take the L.
We were all pumping him pretty hard. It just looked like a match made in heaven. He was the perfect. He's a perfect receiver for Smith, a guy that can create separation, get that target separation, and be the go-to receiver that Smith has always had. Now, granted, yes, we did buy into Jordan Reed being healthy, but we thought this offense could still support them at least. In flex Myers 2 considerations. But what we really saw is that this offense is far more balanced than we expected, even without guys. With AP showing a lot more than I even expected. I could have put him on here as well. Smith is kind of back to what he was with the Chiefs a few years ago, and that's just someone that can manage the game, get you some rushing yards, and not need to throw it as much.
Yeah, he had 20 attempts in a game. They scored 31 on the Packers. Just
AP. I mean, this team showed with guys that we didn't think that we would see with Peterson is that they'll run the football, and as long as AP can do it, they're going to keep using them.
All right, and the last guy I want to do a confession on is Emmanuel Sanders. I did not love you enough. It was 2 things for him. One, I underestimated just how much absolutely horseshit quarterback play last year and injuries just sapped him. I thought we were kind of starting to see the trend in the downward spiral of his career a little bit. I expected a bounce-back season from him. I did not expect this kind of bounce-back season from him. He's been absolutely amazing. And the other thing I didn't put together that I should have is that Keenum absolutely loves to feed his slot receivers, and he does absolutely feeding Sanders this year. So Sanders is at this point a locked and loaded wide receiver 2, and I think he's my preferred wide receiver out of there. I'd take him over Thomas straight up right now.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason that's going to change. Thomas may finish as a great receiver this year too, but Sanders looks super safe.
Sanders will give you the consistency.
Yep. He'll give you that every week floor start, especially in any sort of PPR formats. All right, so those are just some early season things that we thought we got wrong in the preseason we wanted to confess to you guys. Let's get it to a brighter note, though. Let's talk our starts and sits of the week.
Doing a beer review at any point?
Yeah, sure, we can review
Did you
right now.
put that in there?
I forgot that.
I feel like this is the halfway point.
Yeah, about.
Beer review.
And what do you guys think about Octillion by Ale Asylum?
Hit every corner of Oktoberfest that you could possibly hit. This is a more roasty Oktoberfest. It's not as not as sweet or as crisp as some of the other two we've had on. This is definitely more roasty. It's still very good, very drinkable, but it just shows you that not all Oktoberfest are created equal.
No, it's
Just a different.
very, very different version of the style. I would say I'm definitely not an expert on Oktoberfest. It doesn't help that they're only released for a couple months a year generally. But yeah, this is very different from every other Oktoberfest I've had this year so far. All the other ones have been significantly sweeter and maltier. This one is much roastier, much drier. Very, very little sweetness in this one.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for more of a, I guess, almost a savory beer, and you like the Oktoberfest style, this is more what you're looking for.
Very roasty for sure.
Yeah, this would be my least preferred, but it's not like it's any good. I'm not a big Oktoberfest
You mean it's
fan.
not like it's bad?
Yeah, it's not like it's bad.
It's not
No.
like
You know
the-
me and Grammar, like
It's not any good.
it sucks. No, I'm kidding.
So yeah, I definitely still like it, but it definitely threw me a little bit when I took a sip of it. And I just had another Oktoberfest a couple hours ago, so it's like, oh, that is very different.
Yeah, really different.
All right. Now let's do start and sits of the week.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Start 'em, sit 'em.
All right, Hopper, you took a guy I almost picked for mine. Actually, all three quarterbacks were the three I was considering for my start of the week. So,
All three quarterbacks were the start I was considering for my start of the week.
We split it
also.
up well then.
There are three of the four. Tannehill was also in there for me.
All right, so honorable mention Tannehill, but Hopper, your start of the week.
Yep. Mine is Matt Ryan. He's currently the quarterback 4. He's got multiple touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. He's got multiple weapons that he can use now. Sanu is still solid, but Ridley really decided to flash. He's got Austin Hooper. They've got a running game. It's not just Julio Jones now. The Bengals are giving it 28 points a game to fantasy quarterbacks. That's the 6th most, and I expect this to be a shootout, and it's a home game for him.
Yeah, and at this point, the Falcons are just losing their entire defense, so everyone's going to put up points on them, so Ryan's going to have to throw.
He's going to have to throw.
And speaking of Atlanta not having a defense, you picked Andy Dalton, Dan.
Andy Dalton, second trip in 4 weeks. It's been a great start for him on the year.
over.
The over.
Yeah, seriously.
Dalton just faced the Falcons defense that gave up nearly 400 yards to Drew Brees, 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and no picks. They also lost their third safety, I believe. I think he's out for the year as well. Outside of Dalton's kind of weird week last week with the 4 interceptions, I know a couple of them weren't his fault, but getting Tyler Boyd to finally eclipse and become the wide receiver 2 that they drafted him a couple of years ago, and with Tyler Eifert back and really showing up, this is a great matchup for him, and I am pretty fucking high this week. So,
All right. Yep, I liked both those options, but the one I wanted to go for, and I'm targeting the worst defense in the NFL against quarterbacks right now, and that is Eli Manning going up against the New Orleans Saints, who just put their number 2 cornerback on IR for the season. This is going to be a great matchup for him. He's been trending upward week to week. He gave us a dud week 9 with 9 points, gave you 13 in week 2. He was 19 last week against the Texans. Now he gets the worst pass defense in the NFL against quarterbacks. Patrick Robinson's on IR today, so this is a porous defense. Expect a lot of scoring in this one. Another game I'd recommend you bet the over.
I think every Saints game you bet the over at this point.
They're turning into old school Saints, so just expect
I love it.
a metric fuck ton of fantasy points.
He had 1 year of really good defense.
Yep, and it's gone.
Yeah, and it's gone.
They
All right,
tried.
Hopper, I'm kind of surprised to see this guy on the list.
Yeah, well, degree of difficulty, right? So, LaShawn McCoy is my running back start of the week. I'm not worried about the ribs because he's Wolverine and he's already regenerated a new set. As far as the actual offense goes, I just think Allen playing with confidence against a relatively bad defense in the Packers should keep the focus from being entirely on McCoy. We saw it with Carlos Hyde when Baker Mayfield came in. It should open things up a little bit more for him. The Packers are giving up over 4 receptions a game to running backs through the air, over 100 yards on the ground to running backs. And I just think that McCoy comes in and gives you a mid to high end running back 2 day is a guy that a lot of people have slept on. I think that Allen playing with confidence and having to, them having to throw more and do some different things is going to open the field up for McCoy. And I think that he kind of starts to come into this offense a bit more than he has in the first few weeks.
All right, well, degree of difficulty, but you stuck the landing.
Thank you.
I agree.
All right, Dan, Chris Carson.
Chris Carson, you can finally trust him. You can finally start him with confidence. He out-carried Penny 32-3 in this game against Denver past week. He gets Arizona, who is the worst defense against running backs for these first 3 weeks, giving up 32.6 points to the position. While they've only given up 3.7 yards per carry, they've given up the most rushing attempts at 94 and the most rushing touchdowns at 5. Even if he's not the efficient self that we've seen, as we saw last week, he can still produce because they want to run the football to protect Wilson in this offensive line. So expect a lot of work for him this week.
Yep. He was going to be mine, and you sniped me on him, literally. Thankfully, I had a good backup plan. I'm recommending you start Phillip Lindsay against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
The second worst team against running backs, so I didn't get the worst one. You stole them from me, but that's fine.
Yeah, happens.
They were actually even crashed on the ground a bit week 3. The 49ers had 150 total rushing yards against them last week, so even that is something you can do on this defense. It's not a good defense overall. But where I really want to target him is the fact that this team has given up 27 receptions for 334 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air in 3 weeks so far. That's an average of 22.96 fantasy points per game just in receiving production. Lindsey is the more common receiving back. He's going to get more of the work in that regard, and he can exploit this defense in a game that should require a lot of scoring. And he's going to get some carries as well. I actually like Freeman as a start this week, too. I've got him both as running back 2s, but I've got Lindsey as a mid running back 2 this week. Mm-hmm. All right. Wide receiver start of the weeks. Hopper, you're going back to your old favorite.
Going to my roots here. I'm going with Cooper Kupp. Look, just the way I see this shaking out, Waynes is a faster cornerback. I think that he ends up matched probably more so with Cooks than anybody else. I think that Rhodes ends up on Woods. He's still the best cornerback they have, even though he's having a down season, which opens up Rams don't really use their tight end. So I think if the Rams are going to compete in this game and what I think could turn into a very offensive game, especially without the Rams having their cornerbacks, that's going to have to be through Todd Gurley and Cooper Kupp. So Cooper Kupp has not given you a dud yet this year. He's been at 60-plus yards all 3 games. He's got 2 touchdowns going on. So you can feel comfortable running him out there. I just think he actually has the upside this week, just giving how I think the Vikings cornerbacks will match up more often than not. I think that they're going to have to try to attack this through him and Todd Gurley.
All right. I agree with that. Dan, I love this pick before we got the injury report today, so a little bit of an asterisk on this one.
We'll see how the injury report shakes up. But I picked John Brown. Basically, you start all your wide receivers against Pittsburgh. They've given up the second most at 33.47 points per game. They've given up the second most red zone targets to receivers and the second most goal line targets to receivers. John Brown leads all Ravens in targets within the 10 yards. He basically can give you the floor, and then he gets the upside as being the deep threat from Flacco. He's pretty much on pace with Crabtree with targets, and they get around 8 to 10 a game. He's not only just a flex option, he's a wide receiver, too, with wide receiver 1 upside this week.
Yep, as long as he's healthy to go, I love that pick. I had another one, though, in mind, when you took John Brown, so I went ahead and grabbed Sterling Shepard. I'm going back to the well in that Giants-Saints game.
I like this one a lot without Ingram there.
So I'm matching up with Eli Manning as my start of the week. Shepard has absolutely feasted as long as he is one of the top 2 targets on that offense. So if they're missing Odell or missing Ingram, Shepard just seems to explode pretty consistently. On top of it, he's going to grab the same coverage that Ridley drew last week where he went 7 for 146 and 3. I don't think you can quite expect those numbers. I'm going to have to maybe like 110 and 2.
That's kind of tough to do, Cotton. Kind of tough.
But he's absolutely a wide receiver, too, this week with a really nice ceiling. Unsurprisingly, Saints are also the worst against opposing wide receivers in fantasy scoring this year, just like they are against quarterbacks. I love Beckham as like a top 3 start this week, and then Shepard is a solid mid-wide receiver, too.
I agree. I completely agree.
And then on to our tight ends, just this is always an extra degree of difficulty.
Yeah, this is like going into Dairy Queen and choosing your favorite menu item that is an ice cream or a chicken strip basket.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, those are the only things I ever want from Dairy Queen.
The only things that you ever want from
I like
there.
it.
That's what picking a tight end start of the week is like, because outside of the ones that are obvious, you don't really love anything. Yeah. So I'm going back to the well in the Falcons game. Falcons-Bengals game. I'm going to go with Austin Hooper. I'm doubling down on Falcons. The Bengals have already given up 2 50-plus yard games and 2 touchdowns to tight ends. Getting 4 to 5 targets in about every game so far. They're going to have to throw because I expect this to be a shootout. Floor for a tight end. We were talking about this, I think, the other night.
It was Monday.
On Monday, right. Floor for tight ends is about 3 to 4 receptions and about 30 yards.
Yep.
So it'll give you a floor game, and then you just hope that he hasn't not done that yet, and then you just hope for the touchdown.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's where we're at with tight ends. Dan, I think you're going for a little more ceiling on yours, I hope.
Yeah, well, he's my tight end 3. I have him ahead of Gronk.
This was my honorable mention. I didn't want to spoil yours, so I didn't put what I had in my notes, which was it was going to be Rudolph.
Kyle Rudolph, folks. A little bit of a cheat, but this is a fantastic matchup for him. The Rams are already beat up in the secondary without their top 2 corners. Teams tend to focus their pass and attack with the tight end against this. We saw this week one with Jared Cook in Oakland, and you see in weeks 2 and 3 typically the second and third in targets is tight end position. Rudolph has been consistent outside of the week 1 weird week, which was saved with a touchdown. He's gone, I believe, 11 receptions, 13, 14 targets, and about 100 yards and a touchdown as well. With his Petrid tight end position pool.
Putrid?
Rudolph's a fantastic play this week.
All right, and then mine is going to be Benjamin Watson. Yes, I'm going back to that Saints-Giants one last time.
I feel like I've heard this before.
Welcome to the Mafia.
Giants have been top 5 against tight ends positions this year, but that is against this group of tight ends. They've played the Jaguars, the Cowboys, and the Texans.
So when you put him in your lineup, are you going to be like, say hello to my little friend?
I will absolutely say that.
Except I don't think he's little. I'm pretty sure he's a pretty giant human.
Yes.
So we have no real strong evidence that this is a really good lockdown defense against tight ends against those 3 teams.
That's where we're at.
And this is the team that was dead last against tight ends in 2017. So until I actually get some proof that they can slow down a decent tight end, I like Ben Watson, a real high-scoring game here to actually get some work in a place that you should still be able to target this defense against. So he is my start of the week. Let's get to our sits. Hopper, who are you kicking to the curb?
So there's going to be a lot of hype on this guy. It already kind of started.
Oh, yeah.
It's there.
The temptation's going to be there. Do not start Josh Gordon.
I've heard this before.
Us? No. We've never told people never to stop Josh Gordon.
You're going to want to. McDaniel said, he knows the offense. Well, first off, you don't learn an NFL offense in a week. Second off, the Dolphins are allowing the 24th fewest points to wide receivers. If you listen to the YouTube episode on Sunday, you know that Xavier Howard's elite. We touched on that. And if Gordon plays, I'm pretty sure he's drawing Xavier Howard.
It'll be him or Hogan getting sacrificed, and it could very well be Gordon. You don't necessarily know going into the game.
Yep,
Nope.
It's a new offense. It's the middle of the season. He's been there a week. You need to see at least a little bit of it before you decide to run him out there and start him, because it could go very, very badly.
Yeah, let him prove it to you first.
Let him prove it first.
Besides, the only wide receiver of note who's on bye this week is Funchess. You shouldn't have to start Josh Gordon.
No, you shouldn't, especially if you picked him up in a later acquisition.
All right. Dan? Should be pretty obvious on this one.
Peyton Barber, running back 52 in the season. He's got 1 catch on the year, averaging 2.9 yards per carry. He's losing snaps to Jacquizz Rodgers every single game. It's still pretty lopsided between them, but it's already being shown there. They have the Bucks have already proven that they don't really want to run the football because they don't really need to. Not to mention the Bears have given up the second fewest points to running backs this season at 9.87 points per game, and they've only allowed 2.86 yards per carry to backs. Gross matchup, pretty much. You can already drop him. So
Yeah, he's very much droppable.
shouldn't be playing Peyton Barber.
All right, and another name we haven't hit on too much, Derrick Henry.
No, not ever.
He runs into the second best defense in the NFL against running backs. They've allowed just 1 double-digit performance so far. That was Tevin Coleman in week 1. It required Coleman to score a touchdown, which is the only touchdown they've given up to running backs so far this year. They're giving up just 77 yards a game total to opposing running backs. That's the entire team that they're putting up, passing and rushing. And he's still in a timeshare with Deion Lewis right now. And Lewis is looking like the better back. So right now I've got him as my running back 36, and that's strictly because I ran out of names to put in front of him. I'm just like at a certain point, I'm like, oh shit, this is where Henry goes.
Yeah, you'll get some volume.
That's how ranking running backs this week was.
It was a fucking mess.
It was a mess because there's not a lot you like.
Yeah, and losing McCaffrey and Peterson and Thompson kind of thinned out that list in a hurry.
Yeah, you fall
a little bit.
You fall down 3 more when you do that, and then you're just starting to see some of these backfield shake out, and you just know.
Yeah, it's like
You've got no Devontae Freeman. Joe Mixon's iffy. I mean, I ranked him obviously, but he's iffy.
I don't think he's back, but
So
I tend to project if I think they're going to play or not in my rankings.
Same here.
I do not want to start Henry this week. Henry's borderline droppable at this point too, unless they can actually get a stranglehold in his job. All right. Let's preview Thursday night.
Weekly preview.
All right, I'm significantly less excited for this game than I was a few weeks ago. But it's Vikings at the Rams. Rams are favored by 6.5. Over/under is 49.
I'm still excited. The Vikings. So we'll start with the Vikings.
I think it'll still be good.
The starts for me. We'll see if you guys agree. Cousins, Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph. I put Bailey down, but I don't talk kickers, so I think you can still play Cousins out there. We proved last week, even when the shit hits the fan for him, he can still at least produce some points to give you that somewhat floor. And this is a game the Vikings have been they've been preparing for since week 2. You can truly tell that with what they showed last week against the Bills. Rams have already lost Talib and Peters in this game, though this is still a fantastic pass rush. I expect the Vikings to be coming out firing and proving to everybody that they're still a Super Bowl favorite, and I expect Cousins to be the one leading that charge. So I'm out there. I don't have him as a high QB1, obviously. This is still a very, very tough Rams defense. They've allowed the lowest points to QBs this season, but it's still Cousins. He finds ways to give you his points. For the receivers here, Thiggs and Thielen. Thiggs. I said Thiggs.
You did.
Thielen and Diggs.
He said Thiggs and Thielen.
Thiggs and Thielen. Thielen and Diggs. Thielen's a target monster. He is the go-to receiver for Cousins. He basically uses him as the short, as the running game to open up the deep passing game, where Diggs then takes over and becomes the more ceiling receiver here. So you can throw him out there. You can have some trust without their top 2 corners there. So throw him out there with confidence because I expect a bounce back game from the Vikings. I think they're both going to produce decent to great numbers for you. And Kyle Rudolph was my start of the week. So like him there. As for flex plays, Cook if he plays or Murray if he doesn't. They've sat Cook to make sure that he's well rested for this game, and hopefully that the hamstring is up for. It's been announced already that he is questionable for this game. But they use Cook in a way, or at least running backs in a way, through the passing game. So even if they can't get going on the ground, he will at least get the volume through the air to support at least an RB2 finish. And then this defense is still an elite defense. When they played them last year, they just gave up 250 total yards and only 7 points. Won't be a ceiling day for them, but there might be some floor there still. Anything else in the Vikings?
No, I would generally try to avoid the defense, though, if possible.
Yeah, I have them ranked low, but if you need to because you drafted them too fucking high and you're lazy and don't want to go pick somebody else up,
I recommend you not be lazy. Be willing to churn.
Yeah. As for the Rams here, my starts are Gurley and Cooks. Gurley's a must-start regardless, so he totaled just 56 yards on 18 touches last year against them. He did get his touchdown their only points last season to save his day then, but you're still going to start him. Cooks, he'll likely see Rose, he'll likely see Waynes on deep plays, but I do expect him to use Rhodes on them as well. But he's been fantastic these first 3 weeks, at least 8 targets, at least 85 yards. Though he's still looking for his touchdown, he is Goff's go-to receiver. My flex plays Goff. He's been better this season, but he struggled a little bit against the Vikings last year. He went 23 for 37, 225, no touchdowns, no picks. Did take a sack. The Vikings defense doesn't look quite as dominant, though, and just with the offense looking better than last year, he can still give you a decent day. Goff has gone for nearly 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, and just 2 picks with a 9.3 yards per attempt average, which is fantastic. Cup and Woods, both
You're
great.
really struggling.
I'm struggling.
Today.
It's been a long day.
Pace yourself.
They're both still trusted. You can still throw them out there. Cup is, it's Hopper's start of the week, and he's been the go-to guy in the red zone. He's got at least 2 touchdowns in 3 games, and he's either had 5 receptions or over 50 yards in these 3 games as well. And Woods has been the most targeted receiver in this offense. He went 8 for 81 and 11 targets last year against the Vikings, and he's had at least 9 targets in all 3 of his games, in an uptick in production and routes in every single week. And then you can still stream this. Then you can also stream this defense if you want. They get a banged up offensive line for the Vikings, and they have a fantastic pass rush still that could at least give you a floor day if they don't get the ceiling day. Yep. That's it for the Rams.
And I don't hate Sam Ficken.
No.
All right, that does it for the Thursday night preview. For the rest of the week for us, we'll be back Friday previewing all 14 games, not 15. We do start bye weeks this week. No Saints or Redskin players, so get them out of your lineup.
No Panthers.
No Panthers or Redskin players.
Panthers or Redskins. Saints are week 5, I'm sorry. Or week 6.
6.
I jumped in front of it here. So Panthers or Redskins, none of them this week. And then on Sunday, we'll be live 10:30 in the morning Central on YouTube. Subscribe Beerfield Fantasy Football so you can jump on and ask all your start-sit questions with that. I will tell you to sit all your Saints by mistake, so ignore me there. Anything else we want to shout out before we close this episode up?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, well, we'll see you guys Friday. We are Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. I'm Nick Sparts. We got Dan Theory across the table from me.
At 30 BFF.
Christopher Apper to my left.
Hot BFF with 2 Ps.
And we'll catch you guys
Next time
on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya.
Peace.